Thank you very much. So I'm a member of the Young Academy of Scotland, which was founded by the Royal Society of Edinburgh in 2011. Young Academy members work closely with the Royal Society on lots of different things, including human rights. And I'm fortunate enough to sit on the RSE's Human Rights Committee with Sir David Edward and Professor Hector McQueen. And we're part of a wider UK Academies Human Rights Network. So it's on behalf of that whole group that I want to add my welcome today. And to kickstart proceedings, we've got a very exciting programme coming up. So without further ado, I want to hand over to our first speaker, Dunja Mijatov, the Council of Europe's Commissioner for Human Rights. Dunja was elected Commissioner for Human Rights on the 25th of January 2018 by the Parliamentary Assembly, and she took up her position on the 1st of April that year. She's the fourth Commissioner. A national of Bosnia and Herzegovina, she's been working to promote and protect human rights for the past 2 decades, acquiring extensive knowledge in the field of international monitoring, in particular in relation to freedom of expression. And before this appointment as Commissioner for Human Rights, she's also served as OSCE representative on freedom of the media, director of broadcast of the Communications Regulatory Agency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, chair of the European Platform of Regulatory Agencies, and of the Council of Europe's group of specialists on freedom of expression and information in times of crisis. So she's got a wealth of expertise and is going to be sharing some of that with us today. Dunja, I'd like to welcome you and hand straight over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Professors Jaspers, Zanner, dear Dr. Boyd, dear David, dear friends, it is a great pleasure and honor to be with you today, even though I would prefer to meet many of you in person, but we still have to cope with the situation as it is. Nevertheless, I think this is a very important opportunity and a topic of discussion. Environmental degradation and climate change are among the most pressing human rights problems of our time. And it is good that we are slowly, in my view, recognizing this. This is why I have chosen to make environment and human rights, I would say, as a distinctive priority for my mandate as Commissioner for Human Rights of the Council of Europe. Let me start by saying what a joy it was to finally see the recognition by the Human Rights Council on the 8th of October of the human right to a clean and healthy environment. I would also like to express my gratitude and recognition to David for his tireless engagement that laid the ground for this extraordinary, I would call it, achievement. It was also an extraordinary tweet. It was an extraordinary photo that I used as a very active social media user in order to show that finally some good news, finally something that we find of genuine importance and not just ticking a box. The link between environment and human rights had also been the link connecting our mandates that are quite different, but at the same time very much intertwined and interconnected. We have been speaking at the same events. We have both made submissions in support of the climate change case brought to the European Court of Human Rights, a landmark case lodged by 6 young people from Portugal, Duarte Agostino, and we again meet today. And I'm also grateful for this cooperation and the complementarity of our efforts in so many aspects. I'm also pleased to see that last month also the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe adopted a resolution, very important resolution, and also a recommendation which proposes to more firmly anchor the right to healthy environment in our human rights standards. I very much support this aim, and I also look forward to seeing how this and many other initiatives will be followed up. In a human rights comment I authored 2 years ago, almost at the very beginning of my mandate, I stressed that environmental degradation and human suffering are flip sides of the same coin. This means that those who act to protect the environment and to prevent climate change contribute to the protection of our human rights. But the flip side of their engagement is that it often comes with heavy risks. In many places in Europe today, environmental defenders are killed, they are silenced, they are attacked, they are intimidated, prosecuted, and stigmatized, often without any hope for protection or remedy. Protection of human rights defenders is among the core elements of my mandate, and in December I convened an online roundtable with environmental defenders and published a report on the issues, threats, and opportunities related to environmental rights activism and advocacy in Europe. So I used the opportunity to talk to people, to listen to them, to hear their testimonies, their experiences, in order to be more active, but also to have a larger impact when I discuss the issues of their safety and protection and why it is important. I have also recently published another human rights comment on the situation of environmental defenders, with recommendations on how to protect them and to make their work safer. And just last week, I supported the decision of the meeting of the parties to the Aarhus Convention to establish a new mandate of independent special rapporteur on environmental defenders. But let me now move from my own work to the main subject of today. What role do I see for the academia in this fascinating but trying field? I can emphasize at the very beginning of this particular issue that throughout the years and tackling any issue related to the work I was doing, freedom of expression or any other right, my call to listen to academia was always present. Why? Not because I think that sounds more relevant, because I really experienced it in my own case, but also while talking to people. Academia contributes to the social, cultural, economic, and also intellectual well-being on each and every society through learning, through education, and many other issues. Many professors are particularly important in their role of giving voice to the ones that are voiceless, giving their opinions about certain issues that is really on the agenda and it's affecting our society. And the same goes for the environment. First, I would like to mention several issues that I think are important. And first, I think that the members of academia have a special role to play in really broadening the public understanding of the link between environment, climate change, and human rights, and in leading the fight against climate change disinformation, which I think is extremely important. An advice paper published by the Royal Society of Edinburgh in March states that effective communication of science and policy on climate change is an important step in bringing the public on board. The paper proposes to use traditional media and trusted ambassadors like teachers and other, with influence in their community, to relay climate messaging in a way that resonates with people from across society. I think this is a great idea. This is not an easy task, but if this task is really done by academia, then I think we can see some light at the end of tunnel when it comes to disinformation. And it can help a lot to be a bit selfish. It can help a lot in my work, in the work of all of us that are holding different mandates when defending rights. Second, as recommended by participants of my roundtable with environmental defenders that I mentioned, more research and mapping is necessary on the disproportionate impact of environmental degradation and climate change on minorities and vulnerable groups. The aim here is to try to prevent climate change from reinforcing inequalities. Third, I believe that a strong collective voice of the academia can help protect environmental human rights defenders. One such example is the open letter that was published in April by over 400 academics researching climate and environmental change, who voiced a concern about the increasing criminalization and silencing of environmental activists around the world. And it had an impact. At times, the academic community from around the world come together to protect fellow academics who expose the impact of environmental degradation on our health and human rights, for instance, through launching petitions. I think that such voices of solidarity carry a lot of weight and are extremely important. Fourth, the voice of academia is needed to safeguard public participation in environmental protests in the context of restrictions on the freedom of assembly that we unfortunately see happening all the time in many states. This is especially important during environmental summits, like the upcoming one in Glasgow. To quote Greta Thunberg, change will not come from the COP negotiations. It will come where there are people outside on the streets demanding change. And we learned this in history, and we learned this happening at many stages of our history at many occasions. If we are not courageous enough to demand the change will not come. Greta rightly inspired a whole generation of environmental activists. Nurturing new generations of environmentally aware and active citizens throughout education is a fifth area where academics can have a special role. And this is also something that the Council of Europe is well placed to support. And my last sixth point is about making sure that the voice of the youngest generation is heard. I'm a firm supporter of promoting young people's democratic participation. I think academia is one of the best channels to achieve this. But one good example is the RSC advice paper that I quoted from earlier, which was prepared with the involvement of the Young Academy of Scotland, a platform of innovative young professionals. In another example, a paper published end of last year by young academics from the Junge Academy, affiliated with Leopoldina, called on academics to lead by example by promoting sustainability through the reduction of travel. More ways should be found to involve young people in academic work and policy design in a routine and meaningful manner. Young people they set, I would say, a very, very high expectations on climate action, all of us. And they have a point in insisting that we all keep pace with them. They are the driving force. They need our support, and we should give them a platform to make their voices heard, but also to see particular actions. So once again, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to listen to other colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dunja. You've given us a very inspiring overview there to get us going, talking about amplifying young people's voices, but also having academia throw the weight of its authority behind that in all sorts of different ways.